Hey all, Steve Watson here at Someday Farm. I'm just been thinking about this for a while, and I haven't thought of what might perhaps be the best format to do this in. I kept thinking of it as a challenge, or a testing requirement, or just something I'd share in private lessons with students. But I thought, let me just put it out here. Even though I don't have a sort of, category that the lesson, the challenge, the talk goes in. And that is that it's my contention that for the martial artist, every element of their art, and we can define those elements, should have a reason that is understood by and intended by the practitioner at when doing it. Now, many things can have many reasons, and some of those reasons are better or apply in a particular situation or do not. But my point is that nothing should be done that doesn't have a reason. Now, if we think about blocking, just to use the term blocking, which could mean, ditching or parrying or bobbing or running or something, or just what you'd think of as a physical block, just let's call that all blocking. That isn't going to require the student to do an awful lot of work. I mean, the reason I'm doing that is so that you're not successful in the way that you plan to be. Pretty straightforward, right? Like, you wanted to hit me in the nose, you didn't hit me in the nose. You wanted to collapse my nose, you just bumped my nose or brushed it, right? Great, so that's kind of done. Now, what I would say, and if you don't already know this is where your work goes. It goes into the study of your art. It goes into the research of your art. It goes into the experimental playground practice that intermediate to advanced players engage in the cultivation of their art. So if you have a strike in your art, so you can think here about in that form, if you like, but just in your curriculum, if you have a strike, what is that strike intended to do? Is it designed to shift somebody's weight, to fold somebody over, to distract somebody, to knock them out, to create vasodilation? What is it intended to do? Crack a rib? Whatever. Is it intended to set up a grapple? Right? Now, let's just say a palm strike, that could serve all of those ends in different situations. What I mean is that in a given situation that you're practicing, why are you doing it? And the answer is not because it comes next, or because I was told to do 10 of them, or because it's what I'm practicing today. The answer is, I'm doing this to turn the guy's head so I can get off to the flank, or whatever. Again, quite often you're going to have multiple reasons in the actual deployment of an action to do it. All I'm asking for is one. If you're the person who's passing on your art, you're going to need to have a more comprehensive set of answers for every action in your art. So we have a strike. How about grips and releases? Every grip, whether that's a hook or a drape or a hold or whatever, every grip, whether it's an arm hook or a figure four, whatever, every grip and every release, why is that done? Right? If it's in a form, the question might be, why is it done, and why is it done now? Right? Or why is it done in this way this time? That's a little bit more advanced. But the answer is not because I'm supposed to do it next, or because it's required for my green belt. That's not the answer. Right? So if you have a lock, why is that lock done? Why is that trap done? Right? Why is that trap done? Why is that lock done? Why is that choke done? Whatever, however you want to name the categories. Is there a pivot? Right? Is there a pivot of the head? Is there a pivot of the trunk? Is there a pivot of the feet? Is there a pivot on the ball of the feet, a pivot on the heel, a pivot on one ball and one heel? Is there a pivot on the knee? If there's a pivot, sure, a pivot allows you to turn and change orientation and move along an axis. All right, fair enough. But why are we doing the pivot? We're not just doing it because it's the next move in the form. Why? A more advanced question, why do I do it in this way at this time? Right? If we have a shift, why are we shifting? Right? So for example, you might have a punch, shift back and punch. That could certainly have been done forward, punch, punch. If the technique, the sequence is punch, punch, why do you shift back? There could be a lot of reasons, but you can't tell me that your reasoning is because you're supposed to do it. It's what's next. It's what's required of the form. It's what my teacher does. It's what I was told to do. It meets the minimum requirement for my rank advancement. So when I say what is the answer, what is the reason for something, I don't mean that there's one singular reason. I don't even mean that there's one best reason. I would say there may be a most appropriate reason to do it in a particular context. And I would argue that it's very likely in your art there are many good reasons to do the techniques, but you must know at least one when you're doing them. Otherwise, it's empty of understanding, empty of intent. Every turn is that a turn of the attention inward or outward, which I'm sort of expanding the idea of it. Is it literally just a turn where I'm dealing with this guy and I'm dealing with this guy? Well, that's my answer. If that's I fought off this guy in my form and now I'm fighting this guy, so it makes sense to turn towards him, that's fine. If I'm deflecting a kick and I want to turn because I have an understanding of that movement of the trunk to better receive the blow, fair enough, enjoy, great. Why are we turning? Turning may be different than pivoting. Why do we shift? Why do we turn? Why are we in this stance rather than some other stance? What is the reasoning behind this stance? It's not just because, well, I've done a few other stances, I felt like doing this one now. These stances seemed interesting, so I guess, yeah, just do this other stance. That's not a sufficient reason. Why are you making this gesture, right? So we often think of ourselves as having sort of blocks and strikes, right? Or locks and holds. But we also have gestures, right? Why am I in this position at this moment, right? Whether it's a ready gesture or not. Why am I in that gesture? What does this gesture serve, right? If I ask you what this block serves, you can usually come up with, well, hey, it kept the guy from hitting me. All right, well, that's a pretty good answer. That's fine. Are there other reasons that block might be in your art or might be in this technique right now? Yeah, there probably are. Maybe you already know them. So if you already know them and you find yourself doing it and forgetting why you're doing it in that moment, are you doing it in that moment? Or are you just an empty ape, right? That's not what the art needs, right? So I just wrote a few notes: strike, grip, lock, pivot, shift, gesture, turn, stance, and focus, right? So why is my focus here? Why is my focus here? Where might my focus need to be when I do this technique? Do I even know that about the technique? Right? So for example, is the focus deep into the target? Is it beyond the target? Is it relatively unfocused and diffuse awareness? Right? Am I finishing this technique, but my focus is drawn nearly to the rear because, in the sequence I turn that way and kick or something? Where is your focus? Right? Is your focus on caring for somebody else or attacking the person you're attacking or counterattacking? Is your focus on their tool, even though their body is there and this is a disarm technique? I don't know. But do your homework. I feel that if you're going to pass on the art, you need to be able to answer every single one of these questions for every single possible thing in your art. I just listed what I think are, covers quite a few of them, maybe most. And I would argue that it's very likely that every art provides many reasons to do each of those many, many things. And there may be specific reasons to do those specific things in those specific ways at those specific times. That's an awful lot of stuff to understand. So study, research, play, and keep training. Love.